Tesseract Talks, the place where we put the spotlight on tech trends. I'm your host, Marko, the founder and CEO of Tesseract Analytics, and I'm joined today by Dmitry Panenkov, CEO and founder at Emma, an end-to-end platform that's transforming how businesses manage their cloud environments. Dmitry, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure for me to be here today.
Great. So, Dmitry, could you start by sharing a bit about your background and what inspired you to create Emma? What problem in the cloud space were you aiming to solve?
Yeah, so I'm an engineer by background. I have a degree in computer science with a focus on the networking and security. I started my career many years ago as a networking engineer, and then after a few transitions, I found myself leading the sales and operations at the bigger American organizations here in Europe mostly. However, back in 2018, I realized that there is a big need on the marketplace in the software that does deployment, automation, orchestration across the clouds. And we have decided to start building Emma to fix how teams they manage their cloud environments at scale. Because even until now, these different environments are too fragmented, I would say, too complicated and too disconnected. And so we saw this gap where the sovereignty, governance, and automation, they were kind of like, afterthoughts. And we have built a product that puts sovereignty at the core of a whole feature set. And it's not anymore a kind of a plugin, but more like a principle when you're dealing with the different cloud workloads across your environment.
And what market trends or regulatory pressures led you to prioritize sovereign data controls?
So, when we started this back in 2018, we started with a networking backbone, and that we built the software that does like automation, deployment, and provisioning on top of this networking backbone. And then in 2019, we got in touch with the Gaia X Foundation. So they've launched in 2019. We had several great conversations around the data sovereignty and the data residency. And then we realized that might be a next big thing here in Europe. So we started to invest our time and efforts in also the integration of the local service providers into the platform. We realized that might be also a competitive advantage because, everyone on the marketplace, they were focused most on like bigger providers, bigger American hyperscalers. But one day we realized that if you combine the capacity of the local smaller providers in Europe, the combined compute capacity will actually be bigger than comparing to hyperscalers that exist in Europe, not, worldwide, but in Europe. So if we compare European hyperscalers, points of presence, and the number of compute they have with the combined capacity of European smaller providers, then European smaller providers, they would definitely win and outperform the bigger ones. However, they are disconnected. And we realized, there might be a competitive advantage out there when, for example, the bigger hyperscalers, they lack of a compute capacity. We can provide our customers with a cheaper or like available a solution that exists on the marketplace from the smaller. So yeah, we started to look at this. That was the first trend because we heard that from the whole consortium and Gaia X. They had the supporters from all these bigger organizations. So I'm taking these names out of the blue right now because I do not remember the exact names of the firms. But for example, I do remember that SAP was one of them, right? And SAP, one of the biggest German firms and the larger corporations worldwide. So yeah, we understood that there's a trend. And of course, starting from the end of the last year, there's another big shift into the sovereignty topic because everyone is concerned about these, geopolitical changes that are happening in the world. So especially with this new tariffs that are implied. Yeah, that's why there's like another spike in these conversations around the sovereignty, and it's super cool that we have already the commercial solution available.
And your new solution brief mentions that cloud infrastructure often spans several countries, creating compliance blind spots. How does Emma bring true country-level clarity and control?
Yeah, so what is important to understand that our platform maps workloads, data, and infrastructure down to not only country level, but also regional level. So for example, in Germany, you have several regions because we have several providers out of Germany and they have different data centers, right? So we do this automatically. That's 100% automated. So no more guessing which region means which jurisdiction. So you simply narrow down your infrastructure to a specific data center that is located in a specific region, in a specific country, and in a specific city. So you can see, you can control, you can enforce different policies with a full geopolitical awareness. So yeah, easy.
In a hybrid environment where workloads span public hyperscalers and on-prem edge resources, how does Emma unify compliance and governance across providers like on-prem, AWS, Azure, GCP, then like regional or niche providers, given their different regional complexities?
Yeah, so once we have managed to build a unified overlay that sits on top of a cloud provider, so basically this is a layer of abstraction that has a native connectors to the underlying providers. Then we've managed to normalize metadata. We have tagging that work across the providers. We also have policies. So for example, Emma is an abstraction that interacts with the cloud providers, building an overlay that combines the different sets of policies from different providers, and we have an Emma, the single set of policies. So for example, if you provide your customer, or like, I don't know, your employee with a specific rights, these rights, they equally work for, or like enforce the specific policies in a specific provider. So for example, if you have your privileged access manager in your company, or you have your, I don't know, let's say Active Directory, where you already have all the permissions, all the policies embedded with regards to specific departments or specific employees, then when you work with Emma has a native connectors to this EMs, and you can easily enforce these policies through Emma to whatever cloud provider you have underneath. And we also can do this not only across the hyperscalers, but also across the local providers, on-prem deployments, and sometimes edge devices. It really depends on what type of edge devices we work with. So I think it's better to treat Emma more like a control plane that speaks every cloud's language, no matter where you run your workloads. So we govern this with a single logic.
Does the platform provide a unified view of data residency across all connected clouds? And how is that presented to end users?
Yeah, so we have a single and a unified dashboard that shows you where exactly your data lives, where exactly you have your workloads. Over from the networking perspective, and I told you that we have a networking backbone, you can also always map what regions are interconnected, which regions are interconnected, where the connectivity centers are. Cross-regional data transfers, they are allowed or not. You're always aware if your existing instances or applications are discoverable, let's say, by the other entities or instances or applications, even within our platform. I'm not even saying from the outside, but even within the platform, within the specific projects. So again, it's a unified dashboard where you actually the set of dashboards. So you have like a major dashboard that sits on top, and then you have a specific and dedicated dashboards to a specific services, applications, and types of workloads that we run. Again, we visualize all these data flows. We visualize the dependencies between the different applications, instances, classes, etc. We visualize the data flows. Within the specific regions, and we, as I said before, we can enforce different policies in real time. So, of course, there is a powerful API gateway, and you can export this data as well into the third-party solutions if you need to. However, if you, for example, do not know how to deal with an API gateways, as I said, we have this powerful UI where no CLI is needed. Spreadsheets are needed, so you don't need it, to write down all the information that you got on your screen. So you just simply get it through the understandable dashboards that we have in our platform.
And can you tell us, how does the built-in multi-cloud networking fabric contribute to sovereign data handling?
Yeah, of course. So first of all, we interconnect the providers. So we allow you to interconnect your existing instances, your existing applications, your existing storage buckets or managed services from different providers one with another. Moreover, we ensure that there is a guaranteed latency, guaranteed bandwidth, and a guaranteed throughput that you get from us. Moreover, we reduce the egress costs if there are like egress costs associated with the data transfers to the specific providers. We ensure that data flows stay within an approved jurisdictions, as I said. So again, you can identify specific regions that are allowed, and you can disconnect the other regions, or you can disable the data transfers across these regions. So our fabric lets teams enforce regional boundaries even across the providers. This is important, and that enables the true sovereignty where you can choose the regions you want your data to stay within. Moreover, with the networking backbone, you can be 100% sure that this data or these applications or these instances, they are not accessible from the outside.
Do you collaborate with regional cloud providers to co-develop sovereignty features, and how does that partnership model work?
Yeah, so absolutely. We work with the local European providers. We started to work with them many, many years ago. Currently, we work with OVH, with Ionos, we work with Exoscale, we work with Gcore, we work with Scaleway, we work with a Luxembourgish company. So definitely we work with the Luxembourgish companies as well, like Post. For example, they have recently spinned off the division that called DIP. So they also work on a cloud sovereignty topic together with us, with OVH, with the other local providers. And of course, jointly, we co-design specific features that make us like competitive, that make these providers competitive. So for example, if someone lacks of a top-notch GPU accelerators, and everyone today, I mean, they need these GPU accelerators from NVIDIA, right? So if everyone lacks of these types of a compute, that we can easily interconnect the customers of this provider with the compute providers that give you these GPU instances, right? And of course, these providers, they also bring the local compliance and knowledge, and we bring the orchestration layer that sits on top that help these providers to stay competitive against the bigger players that exist out there. I'm talking about the biggest hyperscalers, especially from the other countries and regions. So together we close the last mile of this sovereignty alignment and of the sovereignty gap that I would say has been there before we have joined the forces.
And looking ahead, what's next for Emma in 2026? And how do you see the broader cloud sovereignty data and data residency landscape evolving over the next few years?
Yeah, I think, and actually, I'm talking on November 18th about this during the Luxembourgish Internet Days. It's also all about the sovereignty, right? So in 2026, we are scaling global policy as a code and sovereignty AI infra governance. I mean, not only as a platform, but also in collaboration with our existing partners, these providers that I've mentioned. Sovereignty in 2026, and I mean later on, will go beyond just the data residency. It will shape the entire compute, AI, and networking, and how they are present here in Europe. And Emma, of course, is building the operating layer for that future. And again, that's important that here in Europe we have the experience, not only us but also these providers. We have the experience, we have the knowledge, we have what is important, we have the available compute capacities. We also have a lot of the network that is available that we can leverage. And actually, if we interconnect all these providers and if we join the forces, then we can really enable the real sovereignty, right, across the European economical area and make it more, I would say, secure and more reliable for our end users and the customers in 2026 and going forward.
Well, sounds very interesting and exciting time ahead of us. Thank you so much, Dmitry, for coming to the show and sharing these valuable insights. That was all for today, and I hope to see you again on another episode of Tesseract Talks in the future. Great. Bye.